Good morning. It's November the 19th, and it's Friday, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick podcast here before we get to the holiday week of Thanksgiving, which is one of the most popular weeks that we have, I think, in the year. What I'm going to title this one is Where Do We Go From Here? As you're well aware that there's a lot of cross currents going on politically, the Fed, earnings, shortages. So I'm going to address some of these very quickly, kind of go over them, and kind of give you a little bit, maybe a little bit of concern as we go forward. If some of these don't turn out the way we would like, or the market would like, more important, we could have some volatility and a possible little bit of a pullback here. That's unusual for this time of year, but we also have an unusual time. First thing I want to talk about is the Warren Buffett formula. Being a student of finance years ago, it actually came from Graham Dodd. Warren uses a formula which takes the earnings of the S&P of all the stocks and then compares them to the current price on the S&P. And he uses that as an entry point for investing. I looked at the formula the other day. It was published in one of the research papers I get. And it's an unusual time. The S&P is actually very high compared to his formula because he's projecting earnings going forward. And with some of the things we're seeing these really, really good earnings, sometimes things don't repeat themselves. And with some other things we'll talk about, this is something to keep an eye on. The gap is pretty wide there. Everything is up. Every time I look at a chart, different sectors, everything is up. And that's another unusual thing. You usually don't see that. You have some parts of the market that will lag to other parts that are going up, but it seems like it's a broad-based upward movement. That's a good thing because you like broad-based upward movements of the market, but it also says, where's the bubble? Some of these things are really out there. And kind of a side note here that you might think about is, they came out with this electric truck. I think they pronounce it Rubicon or something like that. And the stock actually, when it came to the market, went up and actually became more valuable than GM. Now that's weird, okay? They haven't even produced a truck for sale yet. It was all based on orders from Amazon and some of the other big companies like that want to get more into the electric vehicles. What does that tell me? That people are just chasing things. People are just buying things on rumor without any real fundamental thinking. And that's kind of tells us that we may be reaching some peaks here in the market. Shortages. I was reading this morning that they finally started getting the ships unloaded because they had to impose penalties against the ship owners and get it unloaded. They couldn't sit out there like they were. That hopefully will start creating some changes in our shortage problem, because everything's got a shortage almost. I was in the store the other day shopping, and big fan of Fritos, and they had no Fritos. All they had was chili cheese and something else. I thought, this is remarkable. The manager came by, and I've known him for a while, and I asked him about it, and he goes, yeah, can you believe this? They tell us they have a shortage on regular Fritos. Now, okay. When it gets to my Fritos, that's when I get very upset. Inflation. This is not going away. Inflation is pretty well stuck in now. And this is going to cause some situations, especially with the Fed. As you've heard, they're looking at changing the Fed governor, which I think is ridiculous. I think Powell's done a wonderful job. He's a businessman. He understands it. He comes from Wall Street. And to change leadership at this point of the economic recovery just doesn't make sense to me. The person they're looking at tends to be socialist. If you read her stuff, she wants to do away with the banks and make the Federal Reserve the central bank for everybody, which is pretty shocking. She also wants more investigations on our bank accounts. She does not like the way interest rates come about. She wants to have a lot more control on those instead of letting it be more of a free market. This is another concern I have, because when you get the market this high and you start making changes, markets don't like that, because you have to really justify why you do it. And nobody can really tell me that Powell's not done a credible job managing us through the worst economic crisis we've had in 100 years and getting us through it. Why change? COVID. This morning they announced in Austria that the lockdown happened. And if you don't have your shots or prove that you have your shots, you can't leave your house. You can only go to certain things. You can go to the store, you can go back, you can't gather in groups until you get your shot. That's kind of arcane, but it's something they said they needed to do because COVID came back. And we're going to have these. We're going to have these times when COVID will raise its ugly head in certain areas and cause a disruption in the economy because it's not over yet. Everybody thinks it is, but I don't think it's really over yet. And when you have to take those kind of measures to get everybody to get their shot, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we'll learn something from this. Infrastructure. They passed the infrastructure bill, which was a very good bill. A little funny money there because they told you how much they were going to need, but that was only for the first 2 years, so we'll have to get through that. But we do need infrastructure in this country. It has to be. We've got to get something going here. Otherwise, I'm going to have to be buying new tires about every 6 months because my drive to work has a lot of chug holes. Let's address one thing here. At various times in the market, you will get pullbacks. It's baked in the cake. I mean, everybody thinks everything just keeps going up and up and up. It doesn't. It does retract, it does reevaluate, and it does come down. What I really think is going to happen is we're probably going to keep this momentum up through the end of the year. But we come January or February, we could have one of those 10 or 15% pullbacks. This happens on a regular basis, and a lot of it's caused not by the economy, but by politics, the fear of interest rates going up, the shortages, and now we got COVID. So I wouldn't be surprised. So what we're doing with portfolios is we're looking at them and seeing whether or not we have certain managers have a very unique talent of hedging out that risk. And that's what we're looking at right now. Where can we apply those? Now, there probably will be a buying opportunity when it happens because the market is, like I say, in the Warren Buffett formula. I mean, it is very, very overvalued. To his formula, it is very overvalued, even though we don't show the market being that much overbought. But expect it. If you kind of know it might be happening or have it, as part of your management of your portfolio, it's not as big a shock as if you wake up one morning and the market drops 1,000 points. So I expect something because of all the changes and the inability of our leadership to take action and get it done. That's what I've always just said, just get it done. Now we've got this Build America Back plan or whatever that is. They voted on that and it got through the House, now it's going to go to the Senate. But if you start reading that thing and looking at what they're trying to do, it'll cause an increase in taxes. It will cause money being spent where probably doesn't need to be spent. So we got the infrastructure bill, we got this bill, that's a lot of money to be spending. My thoughts are that what they ought to do is just see if we can curb inflation a little bit and then vote it in. If they're going to have it, that's when we should do it. Because if you put that in on top of the inflation problems, we'd have more of an extended pullback. And it's not because of the economy. Don't get me wrong. The economy is very strong. It's the political uneasiness and confusion that we're going through. What do you do? I'm going to sign off here. I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving. I'm sorry to be a little bit concerning here, but this is what I'm seeing. And again, it's more political than it is the economy. So thank you very much. Have a great Thanksgiving. And this is Bill Riley signing off.